Day 23. Starting a little late and was getting a little frustrated, actually, because I tell many of you, like, I like to record, like, the first thing in the morning when I wake up, when my voice is the deepest. But today, I had just somewhat of a challenge because for some reason, the maintenance crew or the lawn care, they decided to cut the grass, and you might even still hear it in the background. And, I'm just one that really, I'm not going to struggle with an inanimate object. I just had to ask myself a question, like, why is that aggravating you so much? And part of the reason is because I understand how important it is to get a very clean and clear recording. When I am recording these messages, I don't even walk out of the house. I don't leave the house until it's done. Part of the reason why I don't know what is on the other side of the door, I really don't even know. Anything can happen to me just while I'm here. But I thought about it. I said, the reason why it's so important to me is because someone is going to need to hear this message. It might not be today. It might not be tomorrow. It might not be next week. It might not even be next year. It could be 100 years from now. And so if you're hearing this and it is 100 years from now, know that I was thinking about you before you were even conceived, before even your grandparents. I'm thinking about you. And so it is important for me to ensure that I do everything in my power to make sure I'm of clear mind and clear focus, because I know that I'm being led to do this. And, and I take these devotionals or my reflections seriously, because I know that it's going to help someone. And anytime that there is any type of struggle or any type of chaos, I know that a miracle is shortly behind. And so I'm hoping that as I begin to share this message today, that it would inspire you, that it would encourage you, that it would educate you, that it would motivate you. But most importantly, what this has all been about is that it may transform you, that it may transform me, that it may transform we, because what good is it if one changes and the other doesn't? So I take these seriously. I just wanted to start there because I had to get that out. And, I wasn't going to record that part, but I said, I think it's important to let people know how I feel and what I'm feeling right as I'm speaking, and what's on my mind right in that moment. And that is capturing the essence of what this is all about. This is about self-mastery. And today, we're actually going to that next level, and you'll understand in a minute. But before we begin, I love those old shows from the 80s. And there was one particular show that really, really caught my attention. And there's several reasons why it did. But I was only 5 years old when it first came out on October 10th, 1980. And I don't want to tell you the name of the show. I'm going to play the theme song. And many of you have heard it many times. The show has been in syndication. And even if you haven't heard it, I want you to not just hear it this time, but I want you to listen to it. Because it has a different meaning, because, we're not just waiting for the show to come on, but like the words. And so I'm going to play it. And then I'll come back and we'll have our conversation. You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life. The facts of life. There's a time you gotta go and show you growing down, you know about the facts of life. The facts of life. When the world never seems to be living up to your dreams, and suddenly you're finding out the facts of life are all about you. It takes a lot to get them right. When you're learning the facts of life, learning the facts of life, learning the facts of life. Here's what she said at the end. Avoid a lot of damage and enjoy the fun of managing the facts of life. They shed a lot of light. If you hear them from your brother, better clear them with your mother, better get them right. Call her late at night. You got the future in the palm of your hand, and all you gotta do to get you through is understand. You think you'd rather do without, you never make it through without the truth. Wow. That really got me excited just now, and every time I hear it, I get really, really excited because, you know, I'm not just hearing that theme song. I'm listening to every word, and you may want to go back and or maybe even pull up the theme song and listen to it. The facts of life are really about you. You know, there's a lot of powerful words that and phrases in that particular song, you know. And, you know, there's a time you got to go and show you're growing. Now, you know. It speaks of many things. You know, she says that it takes a lot of time to get them right when you're learning the facts of life. You'll avoid a lot of damage, but you'll enjoy, you know, the fun of managing the facts of life. Life is meant to be lived. That's why I talk about living life and leaving legacy. So the facts of life, it's one of my favorite shows, now you guys know. And there's some clear facts about the facts of life. Like, it's a fact that this is an all-female cast. It is a fact that Mrs. Garrett, who's the house manager, is kind, she's loving, she's a motherly-like figure. It's a fact that, you know, majority of the cast happen to be Caucasian females and from different backgrounds. And it is a fact that my favorite character, Tootie, is the only African American on the show. I'm talking about starring. Those are the facts, right? Those are the facts of the facts of life. And I love Tootie's character because, you know, I love how she didn't allow her race, her stature, you know, she was short, she was the youngest one. There are many things that we can point out about Tootie. But what she learned to do at this boarding school, she learned to adapt, adjust, and overcome. She could have focused on her feelings and said, this is not for me because I don't look like them, I don't sound like them, I'm not even as tall as them, I'm not like them. She could have, and then, of course, in doing so, she would have, of course, forfeited the opportunity to meet some of the greatest people that she calls friends on the show. She would forfeit the experience that we need in order to become experts at the facts of life. Think about it. if Tootie would have been focused on her feelings, if she would have allowed her feelings to guide her, she would not be successful in the facts of life. Why? Because we know that our feelings are not the facts. And if our feelings are not the facts, and I'm not trying to say minimize, because we are to feel the feeling, acknowledge the feeling, accept the feeling, embrace the feeling. But sometimes our feelings aren't the facts. And one of the most dangerous things that I found, and sometimes I've even done it, is I've made permanent decisions based upon temporary feelings. Feelings like resentment. Feelings like regret. Feelings like revenge. Today's focus scripture is Proverbs 14:12, and it says, there is a way that seems right, that feels right, that appears right to a man, to a woman, to a person. But its end is the way of death. There's a way that feels right. Feels right. And sometimes that feeling, there's that word, which is never the facts, causes us to make permanent decisions. How many times have we've done that? How many times have I done that because I'm angry or because I'm in love? It's hard to be in love when you're the only one in it. What is love anyway? So many different definitions and so many ways people define love. This was not really a part of what I wanted to talk about, but it's coming up and it's in my spirit at this moment. And I think that's where most damage is done, because of how we say love, how we see love, and how we perceive love. It's really different. It's really different. And, you know, we never really have these true conversations. And we say that we love, but someone's way of loving may be based upon how much you give to them or not. Some people may measure love in how much time you spend or how much you can do for them, and not measuring it as God measures it, which is unconditional. How can we say we love, as Jesus would say, if we do not these things? How can we say that we're his disciple if we do not these things? How can we say we love if it's not according to as God loves? If God's love is unconditional, if love covers all, then are we really loving? Or are we just in love with the idea of being in love based upon what we have seen on the movies or read in a book? Love covers all. If we say love, we should see love before we say love. Say love. Anybody ever tell you that? Say love. Maybe that's a New Orleans thing. But before we say love, we should see love, because love is just that. It is a verb. It is action. Love is action. And I'm more interested in seeing love than saying love. No greater example than what we see throughout the entire thread. It is actually the one thread that holds the entire 66 books together. We see love. We see love show up time and time again. We see love in places where we need to forgive, where we need to heal, where we need to even reveal. So saying love and seeing love, it's not the same, but seeing love, then saying love is the same. Because when you can see love, you're actually saying love. There's a way which seems right. Which seems right. And I'll have to be honest, past several months, or maybe over a year now, or maybe longer than that, I've had to really evaluate my life and people in my life, because I'm just normally a giver. I love to give, and sometimes I even struggle with codependency, but not in the sense of being needy, but in the sense of needing to be needed. And when that happens, the needy and greedy, they tend to find you. And there are people, and sometimes I really truly believe that some of these people don't even know that they're needy or greedy, because it's just a part of who they are. And so they see someone who is willing to help, but then they overdo it. See, I'm the type of person, I already know the needy and greedy, but I'll help you up until a point where I can hope you. But if I can't get you beyond the hope, I can no longer help. Because now it's taken to a place of taking advantage of. And so that's why it's really important. Because there's a way that seems right, and it seems right to help people. But if there are more people needing me, talk to you, Darrin, right now. Put the focus on you. If there are more people needing you, Darrin, than feeding you, Darrin, then guess what? You're bleeding you, Darrin. These reflections are about you. Keep the focus on you. If more people are needing you than feeding you, then you're bleeding you. While I was in the Marine Corps, one of the lessons we learned is about after there is a casualty, the first thing we're to do is stop the bleeding, protect the wound, and treat for shock. It's been many years, almost a long time since I've been in the Marine Corps, and I still remember that. Stop the bleeding. Stop the bleeding. That's why the woman who had the issue of blood, 12 years, she said, all I want to do is just stop bleeding. And I believe there's so many people who are in that same place, that same position where you're bleeding because of what people have done and what you've done, and all you want is relief. You want to stop the bleeding, protect the wound, and treat for shock. Because whatever led us there, whatever got us there, it wasn't bad intentions. And so, that's why I think it's so important not to blame or to live in regret or resentments or revenge, because when we really take a look at it, sometimes it's a casualty of war, a casualty of life, But these are the facts of life. She said, you take the good, you take the bad. You put them both together, and there you have the facts of life. So these are just the facts of life, that there's going to be some casualties. There's going to be some wounds. But in this process, and the reason why this devotional even started, this self-mastery devotional started, was about that very thing. And it was about healing. It is about looking not just in a retrospective way, but a very deep introspective way. And one of the things I realized is that because I understand Proverbs 14 and 12, it's just that there seems to be this way that's right. And we base this based upon maybe our past experience. Maybe it's based upon, our education. It's based upon, what looks easier, what appears to be a faster way. But it says the end thereof are the ways of death. And so the Bible gives some very clear suggestions about how to deal with this. First of all, wisdom. And wisdom comes from God. Asking God for wisdom, asking God for knowledge, asking God for understanding. Jesus said, behold, I stand at the door and knock. All you have to do is ask. Ask. A-S-K. Ask, seek, knock. See, because if there are more people needing you than feeding you, then you're bleeding you. And understanding even that, for me, means that if I'm going to get fed, then I need to be led. See, even leaders need leaders. That's why I talk so much about meaningful mentorship that matters, because it absolutely does. Meaningful mentorship matters, but not just having a mentor, but also mentoring. Many times I've been in conversations with someone that I'm mentoring, and they may be struggling on an issue, and I may be having maybe not the same challenge, but something similar. And as I'm mentoring them, I notice that something comes out of my mouth that I needed. So I always encourage people to help others, because although we may be wounded warriors, although we may be bleeding while leading, I know that we're helped when we help. And that's why I continue to help, because every time I help, I'm being helped. So for me, I know that I have to transform. And even though this has started the 30 days, I am learning so much. And I understand that if I'm going to grow myself, I must know myself. Self. Thinking about self doesn't mean that you're selfish. In some cases, it's not even selfless. These reflections in my devotion time, it's meant to focus on self. And that's going to require a few things. Self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-control, self-discipline, self-care, and I saved the best for last. Self-love. Self-love. See, self-love will help me with any resentments. Self-love would help me with any regrets. Self-love help me to avoid wanting revenge. Why? Because it is love that covers all. It's love. Love is the answer. I believe that no matter what, love covers all. Resentment, feeling sorry for what didn't happen. I'm sorry. Or that it did happen. Love deals with regrets. I wish it would have happened. Love deals with revenge. It's the only thing. These are the facts of life. So, I'll close with this, because one of my favorite scriptures, and even as I go through this process and learning what to do and learning like what changes do I have to make, not just need. What's not just a request? What's a requirement for Darrin to be different? What do I need to be different? What needs to change? And James 5:16, this is one of where I grabbed one of my love lessons, life lessons. He tells us that we're to pray for one another, that you may be healed. So what's different about Darrin is that he really wants to be healed. What's really different about Darrin during this time frame, he really is sick and tired of being sick and tired. What's really different about Darrin this time, he has to be mindful of who he chooses to allow in his life, in his circle. That's what's different. And James says, pray for one another. So for me, if you can't pray for me, then there is nothing you can say to me. If you can't pray for me, then I am not interested what you have to say to me. These are the facts of life. I love hard. I care hard. I give hard. But it's caused me much pain and much grief. And I have no regrets because I did it from the heart, but now it's time for me to be smart. So, if you can't pray for me, there's nothing you can say to me. If you can't pray for me, I'm not interested what you have to say to me. So please pray for me. Because it says when you pray for me that we will be healed. It's not just about my healing. It's about our healing. And no one of us is smarter than all of us. I am because you are. And we may not have it all together, but together we can have it all. I believe this. Do you?